we had to take it back, you're from Calgary originally, or
So I was born in Edmonton.
okay?
Please don't hold that against me. But oh, and I am an Edmonton Oilers fan, so I just had to
Oh,
put that in too. So I was born in Edmonton, and at 5 years old, my dad got transferred to Calgary, and grew up here. Grew up in the Northwest. Ended up going to Glenmore Christian Academy School for grade 7, 8, 9, and then to Sorensen Churchill High School. And when I think about back, actually, when you were kind of letting me know that I was going to be talking about the past, I I don't know if I actually knew what I really wanted to do.
mm,
I knew I loved music. I That's one of the gifts that I've been given, and so I love to sing. My mom was a an opera singer, and then turned a into gospel singer, and so they had recorded, I think it was 3 or 4 record albums back in the day. And I used to go with her into the studio. I think I was 2 years old, and so I'd sit in there and listen. And I guess one day there was one note that everybody kept hitting wrong as they were singing it over and over. And mom said that I crawled up on the piano bench and I plucked the right note on the piano. And she said at that moment, she's like, I know that the ear is there for music. And as I went on, I would sing in church, and I would sing in different competitions and did the Youth Talent Showdown. Funny enough, the year that Paul Brandt won at the Youth Talent Showdown, I that was my first year competing, and I was 16 years old, and so that was my first interaction with Paul back then. So it's kind of neat because I do a lot of the Not in My City events with him. I attend a lot of them, so it's just kind of a neat little
oh,
story
absolutely. It's a
for
full circle
them.
almost.
It is. It totally is. So as I remember, I went going in elementary school. Again, I was always different. I was always creative, didn't fit into the box. And it's funny because even as a cop, I never fit into the cop box. I had pink nails and, my hair and makeup I love doing. I love clothes, fashion, shoes, purses, all that kind of stuff. And that's not really a cop thing. So when I was younger, I knew I was different. And I really struggled with that. I struggled a lot with being bullied, being called names. I know many of us have gone through that, and we all have our traumas through that. Yet when I look back, I think a lot of that really kind of pushed the resilience to keep going and to be who I was and to continue to be who I am. In so went through that, was a part of Youth Singers of Calgary, Mount Royal Choir, did a bunch of different things like that. Then got into grade 7, 8, 9. And at that time, my brother had a very serious accident actually here in Calgary where he was hit by a 4x4 truck that was pulling a horse trailer that had 2 horses in it. And he had ended up, the bike flipped up over the truck, and he went under and then under the horse trailer and was dragged 150 yards. And this happened right in front of his school. He was at Ranchlands Community School. So he was 8 years old at the time. And that had a huge part that I think when I look back, a lot of stuff that I struggled with throughout came from that, going through feelings of abandonment. Because after the accident, he was in the hospital for, I believe it was 4 months, and ended up coming home in a body cast after that. And during those 4 months, it was my first year at a new junior high. And the bus, I remember, every day would drop me off at Children's Hospital, at the old Children's Hospital. And that's where I do my homework. That's where I have supper. And then my parents' friends or aunt and uncle would pick me up, take me to their house. I'd stay there. And that was kind of the cycle for the next number of months. And then when my brother came home, I was kind of his caregiver because when I look back, the trauma that the we don't actually even think about the traumas that the parents go through. Um, we think about, what the kids and the person who went through the accident, but the mental health side of what happens to parents. When I look back now, man, my parents stayed together, which again is that a lot of times does not happen because the tragedies tear families apart.
Absolutely.
But I look when I look back and help taking care of my brother, and that year we ended up also I was in the 1988 opening ceremonies, so as one of the dancers. And my brother, so his name is Kyle, he was actually able to also be one of the dancers. He was in his cast and whatever. They had him all suited up with his crutches on in McMahon Stadium. But that accident changed a lot of different things that I looked at in my life. The fact of family and the fact of community, the fact of with mental health, what that looks like. And now I'll be 50 this year, and I sit back and think, if that hadn't happened, I wonder where things would be for me and what that would look like for me. After the accident and kind of life started getting back to whatever normal meant, I still love to sing and had a bunch of different opportunities again in singing in different competitions, and I would go and sing at different churches, different conferences, kind of all around Alberta. And psychology became kind of one of those things where I really was interested in it, and I loved learning about why people did the behaviors that they did and kind of what was behind that, because there's always stuff behind things. And so I ended up, once getting out of high school, I'm going into psych and sociology and a minor in music. And I really, really wanted to work with young girls. My passion is youth. It still is to this day. And when I went back to ask if I could go and do that, they told me I had to go back to school and be a teacher. And I did not want to be a teacher. That wasn't who I was. So instead, I ended up going and working in oil and gas because, we're in Calgary. So I did PR and marketing for a number of companies. And it got to the point though where, and this was now 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, as women, we couldn't move up, or there wasn't opportunities for us to move up back then. I mean, we weren't even allowed in the petroleum club before, right? So I remember the first time I got to set foot on the stairs going up, it was like crazy. Um, so I really wanted to go into something that men and women got paid the same for doing the same job. Because I would watch a lot of these men, because in oil and gas back then, it was mostly men in the higher positions. You know, they didn't know how to photocopy, they didn't know how to fax, they didn't know how to turn their computer on, all that kind of stuff. But yet they're making a lot of money. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be something here. And I'm not this bra burning type woman, but I really feel that both men and women have so much to offer each other.
They
And I
complement each other. Absolutely.
hugely, and I really, and you know what? You might get some naysayers on from this, but I really believe that these all female, all male companies, yes, I understand what they want to try to do with that, but I think it's so important to have both male and female on these boards and on different companies. And because when you look and you bring them together, you can have something so amazing and so magnetic. And I think we forget that.
I agree. And I think it's, we focus so much on all of that. And yes, it is important in certain elements or whatever, but I think it's based on competence. And
Yes.
I think, we all live in this one world together. It shouldn't really matter. We should all just be together. Hey, you're good at this or great at this. Let's do it
Yeah.
and let's liberate that person because
Yes.
your organization wins. Yeah. And I got to say,
Exactly.
though, shout out to Shirley Penner and rest in peace to Dawn, her from Youth Singers. Yeah.
Yes.
I was actually a youth singer for a bit.
Oh, hilarious. That's awesome.
The triple threat. Yes.
Yes, it was. I mean, you know what? You talk about community, though. What a great community, and feeling like you kind of fit in somewhere, even if you didn't fit in anywhere.
Totally. I was there for a
Right?
year, year and a half. And, I still speak with some of the folks that I met. And it was just, it felt good. and then we went to Europe
Hmm.
together, and it brought me together with some folks. And obviously, I wasn't a great singer, but it didn't matter.
No, it didn't. And it gave you an opportunity to meet people you wouldn't meet. And even that creative side, back then, people didn't know what to do with some of us
Mhm.
because we were creative. And it's like, okay, well, you don't fit in here and you don't fit in here. I don't know really where to put you. So you could go there and just kind of be like, hey, we all hang out, we all fit in. And even some of those the the singers that I worked with there, I ended up going and working at Callaway Park with, right? And we recorded and sang on the albums for Callaway Park. And so it was really neat to kind of see
Mhm.
how we moved kind of with that cohort.
It's funny with the youth singers, and we are talking about it. I still have my jacket in my closet, and
That's
it's not like I
awesome.
wear it, but it's just
Yeah.
memories, and it was such a great time for me. I always say, um, I had one of my favorite memories from youth singers, so I enjoyed it.
Well, and see, that's something that you can now think back and it brings a smile to your face,
Absolutely, it
right?
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the '88 Olympics, Ralph Klein. So he was incredible for our city and our province. But I have this certificate from when he flew to Athens, Greece, to go pick up the torch and bring it back to
Okay.
Calgary. And it's like a full certificate of that, and it's really incredible to see.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very cool.
it is. I don't think we see that often anymore.
No, and even we don't even talk a lot about the Olympics here. Like that was huge. And even those of us who got to be a part of it. And I know it was, you're just a dancer, but it was pretty cool when you actually saw the opening ceremonies from above. It was pretty cool.
And you know what? It's not like everyone's got their phone out. You were in the moment. There's a
Yes.
difference.
Oh, the experience. And, talking about that, oh my goodness, the amount of times you go to concerts. And I'm trying to just, because I love experiences. That's a big thing for me. Sometimes I'll forget to take pictures and we'll be at events and I'll have friends say, hey, did you and your husband get a picture
Yeah.
taken? I'm like, you know what? Totally forgot. But it's just that fact of being in the moment and being present. And the amount of times at concerts, people are recording the entire concert. I'm like, when are you going to sit and watch that entire concert
It's so true. It's
again?
like the fireworks when you're filming the fireworks.
Yes. Why not just enjoy them?
And they're staring at it from the screen and hearing the sound. He said, just look, just move it.
Yeah, like move the phone out of the way and actually enjoy. I know. Yeah.
And
So
it's true
that's
though,
my
but
pet
who's gonna
peeve.
replay their fireworks videos? I mean, some might, but you're looking at it and saying, "Wow, this is a great memory." I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you still, even with your phone, you still can't get the fullness because you've got them popping in different areas. And yeah,
There's
I
something about
agree.
experiencing things in real life, and I think we're losing touch of that. I focus in AI quite a bit, and I say we're so connected, yet we're disconnected.
Yes.
Social media, podcasting, anything, what we're doing right now, even our Zoom meetings and everything that we do, it's great, but we're losing the human element.
Yep.
It's convenient, but there's this downside to it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I fully agree. And I remember when finally I was like, I am zoomed out. Like, when you just, after, with how long people were away from the office and stuff, it was like, I just want to get in. I don't care if we're 6 feet away. I just want to get with people. Like, it was just that I need people.
When you were growing up and when that happened to your brother and you felt that sense of abandonment, what exactly was that feeling? And have you ever felt that again, that feeling? Or what did you do to cope with it? And then kind of not only put a band-aid on it, but just say, you know what? I'm going to face that shadow and tackle it.
Thinking back, I don't know if I actually knew what that was at the time. I just knew I felt very alone. I felt like I kind of didn't exist because, you know, no matter what, everybody who came to the hospital or came to see my parents or whatever, it was all, my parents and Kyle. And yet, I do remember the few people that actually did bring something for me, or as soon as they came, they, sat with the family and they're like, hey, Carlamay, let's go out and let's go for a walk, or, took that time. But I don't really think I knew what it was until later on in life when I remember kind of as you work through stuff and deal with things, going through a divorce, and all of a sudden you start going, okay, well, how do I work on myself now so that I'm not going to take what I went through into the next relationship or into wherever it goes. And that's where I really believe that I started realizing the what it was called was actually abandonment.
You know,
And it was talking through stuff. It was I'm a woman of faith, so it was a lot of prayer going through. It was just looking at it and going, okay, you know what? This happened, and sitting down with my parents because they didn't even have an idea. Like, and I totally understand now as an adult, they were so focused on getting their son better and trying to maneuver so many things and court and all this kind of stuff that they had no clue. They just thought that they were doing the best that they could, sending me, I had a safe place to go. I had, a roof over my head. I was with people I knew. That was, I was taken care of.
isn't it interesting as we get older though, we start realizing our parents were children too.
Yeah.
It's like you should
And
have known this. It's like no, they were evolving, they were growing up as well.
yes. And funny you say that because that's the one thing when I worked in the high schools as a school resource officer, because I did that for 8.5 years. And I remember kids saying, talking about how they hate their parents and they do this and they do that. And one of the things I said to the kids is, you know what? Your parents are parenting the way that they know how, the way that they were taught, and how they feel is best. They don't know anything else. So what you're getting is what they know and how they know it. And that actually even hit for me because when I became a parent, my son's 16 now, but it was like, I remember everybody's telling about, well, you have a brand new baby. Well, feed him like this. Don't do this. Pick them up when they cry. Don't pick them up when they cry. And you're sitting here going, you know what? I'm just going to do what I feel is right because I'm just going with what I know and what I've seen. And he's still alive and functioning and well. But it's amazing how we literally go, I don't want to call it survival mode, but we just go into what we know. And the book that I wrote, Youth Truth, that was one of the big things that I wanted parents to realize is they don't need self-help because that literally is telling you, you're not good enough, you
Hmm.
don't know what you're doing, you got to be better. Instead, it's bringing tools into their toolbox that they have already and being able to utilize those tools and try them. They may work, they may not. They may work with one kid, they may not work with the other, but that's all they are. So it's bringing these tools and as parents, using whatever we can in order to keep functioning as normal as we can in day to day that we can.
When you were studying psychology, what did you learn from that? And then what did you realize and take into policing? And how did that shift happen?
With psych, when I look back, it's very interesting how many things have changed, even though psychology is still psychology, right? But even the fact some of the, when we talk about, borderline personality and some of these terms, they don't call them these terms
Hmm.
anymore, right?
Yep.
There's different names for them. Stuff that was on the DSV now is not there. Um, so, stuff that I learned back then, I think the biggest thing was behavior. And that's why I think I really liked with psych and sociology working together because it's human behavior. And then looking back behind, well, what happened in this person's life? Or why are they doing this? Or why, behaving this way? Or what drives them to do this? And so for me, that was so neat to kind of put stuff together and see that. When I was informed that I would have to go back to school to be a teacher, and I didn't want to do that. Um, I actually never realized that I was going to be doing a full circle. And when I got into policing, how much of policing is based, you're working with human beings and people's behavior and emotions every single day, all day long. And when you go to a call, the emotions are always so high because you're seeing people at their worst majority of the time. So at that point, um, realizing that when I got into the high schools, I was doing exactly what I had wanted to do at the very beginning. And now I was actually able to do more because I was able to start different programs in the high schools with the girls. I was able to go in and do presentations. I was able to talk with parents and families and have, I think, way much more of an impact than I would have if I would have gone the other route. So it kind of came full circle.
What
You're
did
good
you
at,
learn as being an officer? Was that 21 years?
yeah, just over
21 years.
21.
So, what did you learn about the human race? I mean, you've seen all sides of humanity.
Common sense is not so common.
Okay.
And that was a big one coming in because, again, we make assumptions that, well, you should know to call 911 or you
Mhm.
should know to leave or you should know to, um, whatever it is. But I think people forget that as humans, when we go into a situation, the fight or flight takes over, right? Or stay or freeze. And for a lot of us, we do things that we would not do if we were in a reasonable mindset. And so that was one of the biggest things I think that looking into kind of even going to some of these calls and, you know, even when I would sit with women and I know men go through this as well, but I remember sitting with women at calls who were in domestic situations, for instance. And, they've called 5, 6 times, right? And they're still there and they're um, still hanging in there, bruised and battered, but they just won't leave. And just realizing um, over and over that as human beings, we do what we do with what we know, right? And what we have. And a lot of times for these women, financial was huge and they had no money on their own. And when you think about it as well with kids, this is your home. The kids are in here, you've got your safety that we have. Yet, when as somebody looking out from the outside in, it's toxic and terror and all that kind of stuff in there. So that for me was starting to process, and that was early on in my career, realizing that the empathy, the compassion for these different situations, every situation is different. And we don't know the story of each of these people. We might just get a little version. And so we cannot say things or have them do things um, unless we've actually put ourselves in their shoes. And I think that goes through with anybody. People say, I remember when incidents happen and people would be in fights or a gun call or whatever and many times your first thought is, well, I would have done this. Well, would you have? Because if you were in that position, how do you know that your body wouldn't have just shut down?
Like you said, is we only know what we know.
Yep. And we revert back. The crazy thing, this is one thing I really learned. So we had a number of hockey players and football players and stuff that came
Hmm.
on to the job as well. And we were taught specific ground fighting and different ways to get out of fights that we were in or different situations. And you would watch these hockey guys, for instance, and they would start with what we had learned, but they would revert into their hockey fighting days. And one thing I really learned is you revert back into what you know. So if you fought, or even some of the guys who did jiu-jitsu, as yeah,
Hmm.
that's right, right?
BJJ, yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, yes.
yeah, and they would go back into that form of ground fighting because that is what they knew and what they were trained in. Even though we had been trained previously on like our proper ground fighting for policing. So it was interesting to see how, as humans,
Hmm.
we go back right into what we remember, what we know.
You entered policing, a field not many women step into at the time. What drew you to policing?
So as I had said before, I wanted to find a job where men and women kind of paid the same and did the same job, and
Mhm.
looking, that was policing, that was EMS, fire, that kind of thing. Um, but I think for me too is I I wanted to help people, right? And I know that that's cliche, but I wanted to have an impact in a very different way with people. And whether it was going to be policing or wherever else I may have been taken, but the doors opened so quickly for me for policing. And within 2 months of going through uh, the application process and the exams, I was in recruit class, and I thought, wow, like that's crazy because talking to even the polygraph guy, he was, people were deferred for 18 months, for 2 years, sometimes 5 years. So I kind of had an idea and knew that, what, the doors have opened. So I'm kind of going to jump through and see what kind of
That's
goes on with
amazing.
this. Now, I had never touched a gun. I had never been in a fight. I had nails, but that kind of stuff. So um, I was a little nervous, I'll be honest, because I didn't know what to expect. And going in, in recruit class, you get your I guess your book learning. So we had all of our textbook learning and all the laws and criminal code and all that kind of stuff. Then when the skills part started coming, that was where I really was like, am I supposed to be here? Because one day I remember counting 72 bruises on my body. And this was just during training.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if this is what real life is going to be like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. Like, I'm just not sure. But I kept pushing through. I didn't fit in, I'll be
Mhm.
completely honest. And some of my classmates will laugh with this because I did not fit in. I was not your typical cop. I did not fit into this mold at all. I never did. And I remember, I think it was Rick Hansen, one of our former chiefs, one day saying, he's like, you always have a pink fingernail or a pink toenail sticking out of the box, because that's how it was. But I loved what I did and I gave my 110%. And I had supervisors early on in my career and just kind of into the middle that allowed me to be me. And they knew I didn't fit in the box. They knew I was different, but they allowed me to be me. And I think that was such a huge
Mhm.
support and such a huge thing for me because I could just keep going doing what I did best. And I remember the sergeant in our community and youth when I was in the high schools. The only thing he said to me is he said, "Please, if a complaint is coming forward, give me the heads up. So if all of a sudden they come and talk to me about it, I know what's happening." I'm like, "That totally cool." Other than that, he's like, "You've got the reins. You
I
can
love
go."
that. It's like focus on your strengths, let your weaknesses go, and then surround yourself with people that will enable you to thrive in the environments that you're wanting to
Yes.
be in.
And it's beautiful. Like it's beautiful.
There's hats off to all first responders, but what would you do when you get traumatized and we hear about PTSD? Yes, you can go to the cuff and Billy, but what else? How would you take care of yourself through all of that?
So
Especially
interesting
for
you
you,
bring,
yeah, uniquely
yeah,
you.
well, interesting you bring that up because I ended up after well, I guess just before I had retired, I ended up getting diagnosed with PTSD, and I I looked at my psychologist like a deer in headlights because I, on a regular basis, would see a psychologist for maintenance. That was very important for me because I think I knew also with what had gone on with my family, with my brother's accident and the traumas that it had continued and, kind of brought on as everybody got older. So for me, it was very important going in and making sure that I was good. But being good can only go so far because I didn't realize that I still was pushing stuff down.
Mm,
And I believe that the thing that really I think brought everything to the top, well, one of the things was I think it was 2017, 2018, when baby Eve was found in the dumpster in Boness. And my partner and I were the ones. on that call. And that I think took a toll on me. Um,
You were the ones that showed up to the.
yeah,
Okay.
to the dumpster, and then
Hmm.
ended up following the medical examiner to the ME's office with the baby.
Was
And
she already deceased by the time you?
she was but looking at this little being and seeing all of the wrinkles and the like, it was like I was looking at my son. And that I think really took a toll on me. And I remember my partner one day saying, you know, Carla, you're not doing okay. And I had great, oh, hats off. I had some amazing partners and who I know would give their lives for me and I would give my lives for them. They were just unbelievable. And one of the days he mentioned that to me, and I'm like, I think I'm okay. Like I'll go back and I'll get some more counseling and kind of go through that.
Carla, maybe before we get there, though, just for the listeners that are not from Calgary, do you mind explaining a little bit what that call was and what happened, or give or take,
Y-
as best
Yeah,
as you
so
can? Yeah.
there was it was I believe it was Christmas Eve actually, I think it was. And there was a call that came into our dispatch office from somebody that was walking around a parking lot, and there were big, the recycle dumpsters, the garbage dumpsters, all that kind of stuff in that area. And he happened to open up to throw away something, and he happened to locate this deceased baby in a plastic bag. And well, he didn't know if it was deceased at the time, just because he saw it and then he called us. So we ended up going there to the area, and um, interestingly enough, that's how Hope's Cradle came along, right? And that's how Jordan and I actually got connected with that. But so going there, waiting for homicide to come, to go through and kind of see, waiting to get video, if there was any video CCTVs, of anybody in the area, all of that kind of stuff. So that was what the call was, finding a baby in a dumpster.
Was that a newborn?
It was a newborn.
Right.
Well, it was, I guess it was right on top, and it was enough there that he noticed it.
Hmm.
And I mean, and of course, they say baby in a dumpster. We don't know,
No.
right? But it's just like somebody saying, well, I think he had a gun or, whatever. Well, we go there, lights and sirens, because it's a major call. And then I think the other thing that really bothered me was the fact I couldn't have any more kids. Like medically, I couldn't have any more. So all of a sudden I'm seeing this baby and I'm like, that whole thing comes in of, oh my gosh, how, that individual must have been in such dire straits that this happened, right? That's where my thinking is going. Of course, other thinking from the other officers is, how could somebody do that? Somebody, that is so awful and blah, blah, blah. They must be this. Maybe it's, it's probably a teen, never told their parents, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
We make assumptions. It was very interesting how right off the bat I went into that motherly caring mode of, oh my gosh, I wonder if, and this came from also working in the high schools. I wonder if the parents knew she was pregnant. I wonder if she even knew until all of a sudden it was like, holy crap, what am I supposed to do with this child?
Hmm.
Right? So that's where I went. Um, and so yeah, so the baby was deceased, and then following it, taking it, and once seeing it, seeing the wrinkles and seeing how real this was and how fresh it was, if I can use that term, and how new, um, my heart just ached at that time, not only for the baby, but also for the mom. And we found out later, I believe she was 19 years old. She came forward. But again, where somebody feels that this is the only thing that they can do, right? And so all of a sudden I'm thinking, well, what are we missing? Like, what are we missing that this is kind of the last hope for a mother to I guess deposit or dispose of her newborn baby, because that's what had happened. From what I understand, and I'm just trying to
Yeah.
remember, it was pretty fresh. And and I can't remember if it was still warm. Like that's the one thing I'm not sure
Wow. Yeah.
of, and I can't
Because I
remember.
remember it was a cold night, or well, it was
It
winter,
was,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was. And so yeah, like going back,
Yeah.
it's just all the assumptions and all
Oh,
the
was
things
there
that kind of
anger
go through
from
my
you
head.
as well? Like, how can you do that? Or was there a grace for that?
You know what? Right away there was grace. And I think, and for me, that's all of a sudden when I kind of realized that um there's something like for me, there's deeper stuff,
Mhm.
even with the grace and the love. And literally, I wanted that mom to come forward so I could just like hold her and tell her somebody loved her and that, you know what, it's okay. And
Mm.
this happened, but it doesn't define who you are. And, like all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
because working with the kids in the school, I worked at Louise Dean, right, which is the school for pregnant teens, and they working with these young girls who some of them felt their lives were over, right, because they got pregnant. But it's not. This doesn't define who you are. And so it took me back
Mm.
to the times when I was working in schools.
I
Well, I
mean,
started at Forest Lawn High School
oh
as
wow.
a
Okay.
SRO. And I'll never forget my first day there. I had three Arabic boys right in my face, kind of toe to toe, and literally, I'm using nice language, but
Mhm.
telling me how dare I show up at their school as a female and as a cop, and that I'm going to learn. I've got lessons to learn, and it was like, oh, okay, that's I had to learn regarding different cultures, regarding different, a lot, because it was kind of like the UN school, right? But
And it's probably because all they knew too. Again, growing up with their environment.
yes,
Yeah.
again, what they were taught, right? So at the end, when I left to go to another school, some of these boys, I had charged some of these boys. I had, um, there were things that had gone on, and so there were reasons why, of course, as always, they were doing their things that they were doing. However, they left bouquets of flowers on my police car the day that I was leaving. And the biggest thing was, thank you for treating us like a human. Thank you for respecting us, even when sometimes we didn't respect you. And thank you for giving us second chances because all we know and have known is we don't get second chances.
And the
But you
police are out to
allowed,
get us. Yeah.
yeah. And that was, for me, that was a huge thing. Everybody deserves, well,
Mhm.
okay, not everybody, let's put most people deserve a second chance. And whether it's you're getting caught smoking, for instance, instead of giving them a ticket, because I knew a lot of them, their parents, they couldn't afford to pay the ticket.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, every Wednesday for 1 month, we're meeting. We're going to go outside. Here's rubber gloves. We're picking up all the cigarette butts. Anything else we're cleaning up the community. And then I would rip their ticket up. As long as they came for the 4 Wednesdays, then ticket was ripped up. But it became a community where their friends, even if their friends didn't have a ticket, they would come and everybody would come together and we would start cleaning up. And the people that lived right across from Forest Lawn High School actually came out one day and asked, why are you doing this? And one of the kids was like, well, that's either this or getting a ticket. And the homeowner kind of laughed. But then I said, you know what? I said, we're building community because I said, this is their community they live in as well.
The community itself will thrive. I mean, just cleaning up the butts helps.
Yep.
Just from that, but the lessons they are learning,
Yep.
it's
So
incredible.
yeah, so it became a regular thing. And then we went and painted fences one day. And
Mm.
like just that kind of stuff where um it it doesn't take money in order to have to go and do some of this stuff.
What point did you realize it was time to step away and do your own work and work on yourself?
Hmm.
Was it gradually building up in you? I know you had said um, you got diagnosed with PTSD. Looking back now, did you see the signs over time, like creeping
Not
in?
of the PTSD, I didn't.
No. Okay.
And that's where it's like, well, I thought I was fine. Like I thought I was taking care of
Hmm.
myself,
And
you
was
know.
it because of Eve? Like,
Um,
was that one of the
that was
moments?
one of
Yeah.
the things. But you know what? I'm going to get into some stuff. There was bullying and harassment that was going on at work. Yeah, going on, and it got to the point where um, like mental health wise,
Yeah. Haters
I
gonna hate. You know that, Carla May,
oh I know
right?
haters are gonna
They'll
hate.
find something that they envious about. Maybe it's attention. Maybe it's the way you move. It's your nail color. It could be anything,
Well, yeah.
and that's a
And
them problem. But it affects you, and
it totally does. And the thing is too, for 16 years on the job, I sing as well, right? So I would sing all the anthems for all the grads, and I would do the anthems for the different conferences they had at the different galas, at different things like that. So I got to know a lot of the executives at the time in a very different level. And it was just kind of like, where it's like, hey, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. And I get the brass, you got all your pips and everything on your shoulders, and that's fine. But when you take those off, you're just a normal, like you're just a human being. And when you retire, you're not so in superintendent, blah, blah, blah. You're just so and so, right?
Well, I think we get caught up in echo chambers, don't we?
Yeah.
You're important in this circle, but you step out of
Yes.
it. Well, I care
Who
about
are
you.
you?
Who are you? But are you a good human being? Are you serving humanity, your society, your community, or are you just and we've all faced that in different ways, and then you just have to like come to reality. It's like it could be the ego.
Hmm. Well, who are you when you look in the mirror, right? When you
Mhm.
and that's one of the things I used all the time is that when I had to go to court, and there were times I had to go to court against other officers. And I knew for myself, I could look at myself in the mirror and I knew who I was, and I had integrity and I had courage and strength and trust and loyalty. But it was to me, I, when I look across everything, I didn't move my way up in the organization because for me, I felt I could do a ton more as a constable and I could go across chambers. Plus, I'm not a yes man. So that kind of
Mhm.
talk about not fitting in the box, that really didn't fit me in the box. Because I stood up for myself and I stood up for others who needed to be stood up for.
I love that as we get older, though, we found each other. Like the people that were thought outside the box, that never fit in. I'm one of them. Some call it a label as black sheep, whatever you want to call it.
You're an outlier.
Exactly, a maverick.
Yeah, yeah,
And I absolutely love it, and I'll wear that badge now. And I'm proud of it looking back,
totally. Yeah.
because I still don't think we could go back and be in a box. Could you?
No, I still couldn't. Even looking now, even as I'm, once I've now left policing and kind of going back to your other one, bullying and harassment was kind of, I think, for me, the last straw is
Mhm.
where it kind of made me actually sit back and go, is it really worth my mental health? Is it worth my body was um, really tiring. And I mean, you're wearing all of that equipment for so long and so many years, getting in and out of the car. I remember my shoulders were like up to my neck. I didn't even know I had a neck until I started getting some treatments done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have a neck.
Oh, because
Because,
you're always like
yeah,
this.
and you don't realize your all of your organs, everything is squashed because you're kind of sitting like this.
Mhm.
And when I didn't wear the vest for a while, everything it felt like, it had to replace itself. So I knew for myself, looking back now, that it was time to make a decision. And I felt I could have more of an impact without the red tape and going and doing more outside of policing. And as I've noticed and learned, yeah, like there's so much more after policing. I loved my job. I loved my career. I was able to go into so many different areas, and I was able to be me for so long. And then there came a point where I couldn't be me. And I think that is where I realized it was time.
I think people of faith, just humans, if you really are in tune with yourself, you can feel the energy and aura around people. And you can
Yeah.
sense that a room you're going into where there's these eyes that are not always wanting the best for you.
Hmm.
I mean, I
Well,
think, and you can deal with it.
spiritual warfare,
Absolutely.
hugely. And I'll just put it out there. Like there was a lot of, I mean, because not all of us as cops, we don't all think the same,
No.
right? And we don't all agree with the same. Yes, our common goal is for safety, public
Mhm.
safety, and that kind of stuff. But when you actually dig deeper, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that, I mean, we don't agree with, as many of us don't agree with, right? And
Totally.
myself, I didn't agree with. So
No.
change. And I think too, though, is when we actually we don't know what people are going through. And this is a big thing of where now I've started working towards kind of the next chapter, the next journey is that morning, that cop might have been told by their kid, I hate you. I'm running away. I don't want to be with you. I want to go live with mom or dad.
Mhm.
Or their spouse comes and says, I want a divorce. Right. And I get that happens all the time, and people have to go into their jobs and be however normal that looks. However, as a cop, we are now taking this, and then we have everybody else's problems that we're dealing with that day compounded on top. And there comes a time where all of a sudden people just blow. We do. Everybody all of a sudden, and it could be a little blow, a big blow, whatever it is.
Breaking point. We all have it.
You do. That line in the sand is done.
Hmm.
And that breaking point happens. And it's worse when it's a cop because I mean you're in public eye, you're in, and all it could be is something where you yell or swear at somebody and somebody gets it on video. You're in a fight, actual a good like an actual fight, and you take the last punch that you didn't need to do.
And
But that,
especially in today's world with social media, you're like, oh, that's all you
oh,
need to see.
that's all they see. They don't see everything else that the guy punched the cop in the head, right? So that's what people forget is that we're human, like cops are humans as well. And we all have our own traumas and trials that we're going through and have been
Mhm.
going through. And we bring that now on top of everything else that we deal with.
I say first responders are our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters. How do we bridge that gap with our communities? What do you think we could do to start at least?
Well, I think number one, getting to know your neighbor. I think that is so important. And I think we saw that where people were driving into their garages, the doors closed, and that still happens in a lot of communities. And you don't know what's going on, in the house, that house. And I remember when I first started, when there was no cell phones, and no, like even computers in our cars, we didn't have. And the map was one of the actual maps. And
My
so I
dad
remember
still
going,
uses it.
yes. And I love because my partner would be like, okay, which way? I'm like, okay, I think go left. And you turn with the map. Um, and I remember we would go into these communities, and I'm picking on Tuscany because it had the most back then, like 20 plus years ago, had the most cops in it and had the most grow ops in it at the time. And I remember we would go in, and right next door to an executive would be a grow op. And you're thinking, how would you not know? But people didn't get to know who their neighbors were. They didn't, we still see it today. People don't even know who their next door neighbors are. And then something happens, you're like, oh, I can't believe that happened in our neighborhood. You know what? Crazy people live in every single neighborhood, and
Mm,
people that are toxic live in every single neighborhood.
yeah. It's like, oh no, this is a safe neighborhood. There's no crazy in there. I'm like, you're kidding yourself. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's where it's just masked better.
Yeah, it is. And you never know who it is, and they may not be, but our biggest thing we always said is people turn from suicidal to homicidal within seconds, right? So somebody could be everything's fine, everything's good. All of a sudden, yeah, I want to divorce you. That's
Mhm.
it. That triggered them enough that they're done, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's a big thing is get to know your neighbors. Even with the cops, you know what? Even if you see one, go and say thank you or go and say hi or because I think that's important for your kids to see. I think that's important for the police to realize that, you know what, we are still valued. Um, I mean, I remember pulling people over, and one guy, he had his son and daughter in the back, and he was going fast. And I was doing radar, got it, showed him, da da da. I even put it down so it wasn't going to be a really expensive ticket. And he ripped it up and threw it in my face and talked about how it's his tax paying money. And I just said to him, well, you know what? I pay taxes too. So I'm actually getting paid for my taxes as well. So just get to know people, go and say thank you, go and say hi. Maybe it sounds cheesy to you, but you know what? For those on the street, that's kind of a breath of fresh air sometimes.
After you were done policing, what did you do? Did you take some time off for yourself to figure out who am I, or did you already by then know, okay, I am this person? I think we're always finding out who we are, though. That's the thing.
We are.
Like, what's
I
your
think it's
purpose? What's your why? What's your North Star? I think it's always adjusting, you know?
Yep. It's true. And I knew once I left, I knew in my heart I wanted to write a book.
Mhm.
I had known, I think 2015, 2016, there was just something that um, I needed to write a book, especially after seeing everything that went on in the high schools
Yeah.
and how there was such a big gap between the adults and the youth. And that connection, that engaging, especially with those hard conversations, and then you bring in religion, you bring in culture. It was a disaster happening. So I knew in my heart that I had to write this book. And so I started writing. I think when I retired, I believe, like one and a half chapters done. It's not as easy. I don't know. Some people can sit down and sure they can write like a book in no time.
And this is
And
before AI, ladies and gentlemen.
it was like I sat there, I knew what I wanted to write, but funny for me, I had bought scribblers, I had bought pens because I was all excited to write a manuscript. And then I was informed that nope, everything has to be on computer. I'm like, oh, it's because I'm old school.
You know, I still write
So
everything on paper, pen and
I
paper.
do too. I have lists for my lists all on paper.
And then
Love
and
it.
then I use a highlighter. Like
Me too. And then I use colored pens too because everything has to be colored.
that's so funny. Yeah, blue, black, reds, they're here. And
I
it
love
feels
it.
good, doesn't it? Even those micro tasks, by the way, when you're like, hey,
Yes.
I did the dishes crossed.
I
It's a
know.
win.
It, yeah, it's a huge win. And we do not allow ourselves to celebrate the small wins in our lives. That's a big thing. We want these, we're like, okay, that big thing is coming, but all these small wins, and what happens if the big one never comes? Well, we haven't like we kind of feel lost because we haven't been able to celebrate anything. Um,
Sorry. Yeah.
no, that's okay. So with the book, I tried to sit down. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. But yet, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up and I'm like, I have a whole chapter. I'm ready to write. So I'd wake up and do that. But I talked to my book coach. I remember January of 2024. I said, I want to have the book out kind of September, October. When do I need it done? She's like, you need it done the beginning of June. Everything has to be in. I'm like, oh. So I sat down, finished writing it in just around 4 months or just under 4 months. Um, and got it in, got it done. It was published. And so I've been, selling the book, going and doing book talk or not book talks, but talks to parent groups, to teachers conferences, even churches. I also do keynotes now, going to different conferences, different events, and I also now am working. I don't want to call it a family mediator, but it is a family solution, a conflict solution strategist is what now, because I don't like family mediator. So kind of came up with that name and working with families, especially those who have kids coming out of CYOC or our Young Offenders Center and coming back into reality with their families is there's a gap between when they leave
Mhm.
CYOC and when they get back in their families. And a lot of times it's shameful. It's an embarrassment for families to ask for help, right? Especially my kid just got out of jail. I don't know how to deal with all this now. So working with the families, like with them, I've been doing some work with Center for Newcomers, CCIS, CWA, so all of our immigrant places as well, and just presentations on, coming to Canada, what does that look like? Right.
Mhm.
And that kind of thing. As well, now going into corporate and doing work, I have created a method called the Calm Leadership Model. And so it talks about connection, it talks about awareness, it talks about listening and measure response, and how so many times as leaders, um, if you don't take the time to actually get to know your people and you are leading with where they fear you and it's more of a control versus a collaboration, that's there's a lot of missing link, and there's a gap in there. So
Mhm.
going in and working with different leaders and even from youth services and government services on how to work with that. And also I got reached out to by somebody in real estate because they said that's a huge thing that's happening in real estate as well, is they're losing a lot of their high performers because of management.
I was just thinking about
So
that in real estate. I could see it in, well, obviously our
insurance, I heard.
insurance. Yeah. Mortgage
Yeah,
brokers. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm excited to kind of take that. But you talk about kind of finding my identity. it's been a challenge. It's been a journey
Mhm.
because I don't wear the blue uniform anymore. And when I would get asked to go present, it didn't matter if you were an expert or not. You had the blue uniform on, so you know all. Now, even with degrees, certificates, everything under my belt that I have, they're like, well, why should we call you? Why should we have you come and speak? So literally learning to sell
Because
myself.
I've lived it.
Well, yeah, and you tell them that, but it's kind of like, it's not as easy as when I was in the blue uniform.
Interesting.
So that has been uh, kind of starting to get the journey going of getting that out there and learning how
Mhm.
to use LinkedIn and all of that kind of stuff.
Personal
So
branding. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And then hopefully you'll have a podcast soon one day.
I'm hoping, yes, actually I've got the name already
Hmm.
and looking at working with the youth and the families because there's really not a lot out there where it's a platform for youth to be able to come and talk about what they went through.
Have you ever thought about just making these bite-sized real pieces of content, find a topic, and then just start sharing a little bit of your expertise out there so that people know other than just a photo, it's you talking because there's this charisma, there's a human behind it all. Maybe that might be something, right? Just to say, "Hey guys, how's it
I'm
going?"
learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning. And the crazy thing, I hate social media. I struggle to get on it, even to
Yeah.
look at people's stuff, because by the time I go through 10, 100 have come on, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh, it's
So
noisier than ever. Yeah.
ugh, I struggle with it. And so for me to post, and that's what I really want to
Yeah.
now learn how to really use LinkedIn to its fullest and with putting, the posts in the calendar so that they can get shot out when they need to get
Mhm.
shot out and that kind of stuff. So I'm learning.
That's okay. We're all
Yes.
learning. You've lived many lives. Officer, author, educator, mother. What have they all taught you about what actually matters in the end? So
Okay.
everything
So,
you've gone through in life, it's like
yeah.
looking at it today. Obviously, we still have our whatever the future holds, but today, what does it feel like looking back?
Looking back,
What matters in the end? Yeah.
well, number one, I've got a lot of resilience, what I found. And when you take all of that, um, and going to the end, I want to be able to leave a legacy. I want to be able to
Mm,
leave an impact that when somebody looks at my whatever picture or
mhm.
sees my tombstone, whatever you want to say, I want them to remember, oh my goodness, Carla
Carla.
May,
Yeah.
brought happiness and joy when she walked into a room, that
Mm,
she had an impact with the youth, that they would come and talk to her about stuff that they wouldn't even talk to their parents about.
mhm.
That when she went and talked to people that you knew that you were the only people that were there because she just was in and zoomed in on you and it didn't matter what else was going on. And that I felt important and that I felt seen and heard and valued when I was with her and talking with her. For me, that is huge. And to be able to, with the resilient side, to be able to empower others to help build that resilience. Because I believe resilience is in every single one of us. It's just being able to find it. And that's from with my company. It's called Diamond in the Rough Consulting.
Oh, I
The
love
reason
that.
I chose that, every single person has a diamond inside of them.
Mhm.
And we all have our traumas and our trials and it's been tarnished and it's still in the rough for a lot of people. But all it takes is one person to come and start shining and polishing that diamond. And it will shine in ways that many of us don't even know we can shine. And all it takes is one person.
Can't agree more. What advice would you give to someone who wants to lead or serve but feels like they're not qualified or just not ready?
Take that first step.
Mm,
And, I still deal with imposter syndrome on a regular
mm.
basis. I still deal with self-doubt. Um, but on the other side of fear is growth. And so it's taking that step and you're ready. You just don't know it yet. And even if you are not fully ready, taking that step will allow you to see what strengths you have and maybe where you're a little bit less strong and where you can now continue to build and what that will take. But it's taking that first step and it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It is hard, but once you take it, it is amazing how easy it is to continue
Mhm.
taking those steps.
We got that domino effect, right? But just it's that initial, like, let's get going. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
It's
hard. Ugh.
it's not easy. It's like, oh, just pick yourself up. Just move. It's okay. You got this. It's like, no, I don't got this. It's
Yeah.
it's overcoming that barrier in your mind. Yeah.
Well, and I think allowing yourself to know that, you know what, maybe I don't have
Hmm.
it today, but tomorrow's a new day. And so allow yourself that time. If you need to grieve, grieve. If you need to have a day where you sit and watch Netflix
Hmm.
and you eat ice cream,
Go do
do
it.
that. But know that tomorrow is a brand new day and you can start fresh.
Absolutely. I think we all have these thresholds, and we've pushed them. We've dialed it up and said, "Oh no, I'm still good," and dialed it up until there's that breaking point. So I love
Yeah,
that you said that. Know your limit, and then just if it's not working out today, it is what it is. Just let
it's
it be.
okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
There is a tomorrow, because you start pushing through it, you're just grinding yourself down,
Well,
right?
and
So
even with work, we find out we think that, oh my gosh, we got to keep going. But if all of a sudden something happened to you, they'd find somebody else, and all that stuff that was on your desk would now be on the next person's desk.
if a young person picks up your book 10 years from now, what do you hope they take away from it?
Ooh, number one, that they're not alone,
Ah.
that no matter where they are and what they're going through, that there are people that have gone
Mhm.
through either similar things and that there is hope at the end and that you are not alone and
Mm.
that you have a voice. And it's not that they don't have a voice, but many, I believe, have voices they just don't know how to use or are afraid to use. So that is the big one.
How do you stay grounded in who you are when systems around you can feel limiting or broken?
Okay. Well, for me, again, it's my faith. I know that for me, prayer is a huge thing. And when I feel stuff's chaotic, or that I feel that maybe I can't go on, or maybe I'm stuck somewhere, prayer is a big, big one for me. And again, family and support.
Mm.
Have an amazing supportive system around you. And that's what I have found is as I've gotten older, my network of close people has dwindled so much. And I think we were talking earlier is life is short and time is very important to me and time is worth a lot to me. So for me to use my time wisely with not only, doing things, but also with people and to make sure that those people are exactly who you need to have in your little cohort.
I have less than 10 people in my circle that I truly, genuinely trust, and I know that will be there for me no
Yep.
matter what. And I hope, I'm that person for them. And I think it's got to be reciprocated. But it's interesting. It's when we're younger, you want that bigger crowd. I have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But as you get
Well,
older,
and look what Facebook has done. It's, a lot of girls I would notice in school is that they got their self-esteem and like self-image and
mm,
confidence because I have 500 and whatever friends or I have
yeah.
65 likes or whatever. Well, okay, but that's not like when you actually look at it, how many of those people do you know? And what are those people actually saying behind your back?
Hmm. Well, not all eyeballs are good eyeballs, right? That's the other
That's
thing. We
right.
know
I
that,
like
right?
that.
They're all looking at your stories and stuff like, whoa. But they're never
Yep.
engaging. They're never doing anything. I mean, we all know that in
Yep.
social media world.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your time today. And if anybody wants to buy your book, get some of your services or solutions, where do they go? How do they do this?
So I'll show you the cover of the book. But
Oh,
can you
I like it.
yeah. Oh, I don't
Can you
know if
bring it
the
a little
light
closer? There we go.
very
Yeah.
closer. Is that good?
A little higher and turn it forward a bit. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Engaging in conversations that can change lives. Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Youth
Okay.
truth. So you can find it. And actually, I won International Impact Award as well on the book. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So they can find it at Amazon or it's on
Mm.
Ingram Sparks on any of the Ingram Spark platforms. As well, you can get in touch with me at www.carlamaysheremata.com. And my email's on there and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you again for this.
Thank you. Take care and have an amazing day.